Hey everyone, how's it going? Sorry for the slightly late start, but not bad. Not bad, I'd say. Um, yeah, so this is a video for me to help prepare and chat with you guys a little bit about some of what I'm learning and what I'm coming across in my preparation for this conference. Um, Toma, hey, you're finally joining the stream, man. We should go live one day. We should do one of these. I'm not sure I could pull you into this one because I don't even know how that would work. I'd have to attach you to my streaming software. I don't even know how I'd do that. I know what Tone does is he gets. Yeah, I don't usually go this late either, bro. It's just. I think we'd have to do a Zoom call and then connect the streaming software to that. I know that's what most people do, these live streaming YouTubers, and that's why there was a Zoom written in the bottom right hand corner. Anyway, I've been doing some research into history. I don't know much about history and economics, and I'm on all these deep, nuanced panels about the Bitcoin standard, and it really is quite amazing the things I'm learning. The fact that they suspended the gold standard twice to pay for World War One, that really speaks. Like, I had no idea how genuine the argument was that on a Bitcoin standard, on a sound money standard, governments just cannot pay for war. They just can't find a way to make it work. So it really is quite amazing that if we go back to some of the benefits of the gold standard, but with the proper technology, with verification possible for everyone, the shenanigans just drop. I mean, some of what I've learned today has made me think that the US dollar is a bigger scam than the pandemic. Like the absolute the games that are being played, the rug pulling that's going on. We are using an absolute joke of a currency. I cannot believe this. The US dollar is a complete farce, and I can't believe it's so much worse than I thought. And this is why Bitcoin and all its elegance and beauty and its amazingness isn't up against an opponent even worth its salt. Bitcoin is just up against the most absolute bad joke. There's one positive development of it, and the whole thing again is kind of one of these things where Bitcoin has every free miracle come together. Because one interesting artifact of being where we are right now, in the way getting here, having got here the way we got here, is that governments needed to suspend people's disbelief in what the US dollar is, and as a result central banks have done nothing but attack gold, and because it provided a viable alternative, and they needed to attack its credibility because they needed to make people really believe in fiat currency, and as a result gold has been brutally attacked, and that leaves more space for Bitcoin. In a weird way, gold might have been a serious alternative to a lot of people, but really right now Bitcoin has a hope. Gold doesn't, and frankly, gold and Bitcoin, it's a weird attack, because the documentaries I've been watching are all gold bugs. And I've been listening to Peter Schiff and saying he's right. I mean, we know what these people think of Bitcoin. They don't take it seriously at all. They all approach it with a Luddite mentality of, oh, if I can't hold it in my hand, it doesn't have any real value, and all this nonsense calls to someone had to go and mine the gold, so you're really paying for the difficulty of that, and all these stupid concepts that don't really speak to why it is that humans have used gold as a reserve currency. But nonetheless, their gripes with central banking and fiat currencies are all completely right. They just don't realize there's a much better solution now. I mean, it's Bitcoin, which is digital gold, and it works about 1,000,000 times better than gold in a whole bunch of ways, but also offers some of what gold offers in as an alternative to the US dollar or to fiat currencies. So it's been quite interesting watching these people like Mike Maloney and Jim Rickards and Peter Schiff, as I mentioned, and they all know roughly what they're talking about. They miss the technological progress we've made as a species, but they all have. It's just staggering the way. I mean, I knew all this anyway, but I reminded myself about it by watching these documentaries and going, oh my god, it really is. That's the mechanism by which money is made. You have the Treasury says we need some money, so the Federal Reserve makes some money, and The Federal Reserve gives the Treasury the money, and the Treasury gives them back a bunch of IOUs, which is already that have to be paid back with interest that is going to be from money that doesn't exist, and it's a definition of a Ponzi scheme, because the government will always owe more money than exists, and they're saying no, it's fine because we'll just keep printing more money, and don't worry, it will actually not cause inflation. Like, this is clown world thinking stuff, and like we're obviously been in a scenario where it's 10% inflation is conservative estimate at this point. Like, it's over. The fiat currency is definitely over at this point, and since 1971 it was going to happen, and now we're just seeing like the death throes of the whole thing. Let me say hello to a couple of people. Prem, thanks for joining. It's good to see you again. You're a cynical realist about the future of war. I don't think it will be financed the same way as wars in the last few hundred years, but war doesn't disappear. Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm more optimistic than that, man. I genuinely think that we have a shot here, thanks to the nature of using a sound money. I really do. Bitcoin's value is likewise why the armies of the future will be paid in Bitcoin. Yeah, but you can't print more Bitcoin, remember? And it's very difficult to confiscate it too. No point in war when peace is more profitable. Completely agree, Toma. Scarcity and greed drive war. I agree that peace is more profitable, but it has always been more profitable, not just because of Bitcoin. Perception of profitability, potential fueled wars. Can't say for sure that will disappear. Yeah, I mean, there's still going to be conflict, but the point is, the fact that wars literally were impossible to pay for unless they suspended sound money as the backing for their currency tells you that if everyone has adopted it, because people can't adopt gold the way they can adopt Bitcoin. People can't have a cheap phone and start using a superior monetary asset, like El Salvadorans are doing. You can't do that with things like gold. It can become deeply ingrained in a culture, like in India, but that's still the point they made in this documentary I watched that I found really interesting is that we also have, this is what I was talking about a minute ago, where Bitcoin exists in this perfect Goldilocks time and space, where people, because of what happened in 1971, have now started to look at money as one thing and one thing only, which is medium of exchange, and trusting it for the purposes of that, and understanding that it sucks at everything else. So you can't use it as a store of value. It's very confiscatable. It's counterfeitable. You can't verify it. It can't be backed up. It will be stored in institutions that will lock you out of it. It's censorable. All of these awful characteristics, but it is decent as a medium of exchange. And now we go, okay, and that's so much so, that's so much part of the psyche and the public perception of what money is, that Bitcoin now, people will just say, is it or is it not money? It's not, because I can't buy a coffee with it. That's the general mentality people come to it. And then we have to talk about things like stores of value and soundness and deflation and central banking and all this stuff, which most people just don't really have any interest in or understanding of. But the fact that Bitcoin comes after this rebranding of money as solely a medium of exchange, it's actually kind of helpful, because again, that means we can't go back to things like gold, because people understand money as a much more useful technology than what gold offers, because gold is rubbish as a technology. All it is a decent store of value and decently scarce thing, but money now has had all this amazing technological stuff that happens with it. So Bitcoin comes along and says, okay, we can do that too, but basically we're structuring the whole availability. The supply is going to work like a precious metal, okay, because that is actually the right way to do stuff, but we can do it without losing any of the benefits. And it's just like the self-sovereign stuff in, with self-hosting your server. Like, I'm always going on about Start9, but it's the same thing. Like, people aren't going to stop using instant messaging. They're not going to stop social media. They're not going to stop using cloud storage. You just have to get them using their own service to do it, self-hosting their own stuff. You're not going to be able to get them to stop. You're not going to be able to get people to stop using smartphones and having the client-server model. And the way you stop it being the master-slave model is you don't stop it being the master-slave model. You just become your own master. So your device is the slave and the server is the master. But you run the server, so you're your own master. So same situation. We're going to keep money the same as we understand it to be. We're going to adopt the qualities of sound money, which is from the gold standard, and we're going to merge the two. And that's undeniably good, and we're up against the biggest Ponzi scheme I've ever seen, so it's easy. I hadn't thought about the unconfiscatability of Bitcoin. That definitely changes a lot of the economics of the pillage aspect of war. Exactly, Prem. Remember, in the 1920s, in between the two world wars, that was one of the many times they went, give us your gold, and you're not allowed to have it. So these things are going to keep happening. And with Bitcoin, they're in for a rude awakening. And even if they try and create something that's backed by Bitcoin and try to be funny with it, try to do some of Christine Lagarde's funny business, even if they try that shit, they're not going to get very far, because everything is so publicly available that every time they try and pull a fast one, we're just going to go, no. Apparently, a bunch of money moved from here to here. We've all looked in the blockchain. No, it didn't. Where's your evidence? Because it's so easy. It's like with Craig Wright. Craig Wright might have had an actual shot in hell of having anyone with any credibility believe him if we didn't have Bitcoin that works, if he wasn't involved in the Bitcoin space, if he wasn't trying to make claims involving Bitcoin. Because he was like, I was here, I mined these blocks, and we all just went, okay, sign a message saying it's you from one of the private keys related to those addresses. And he can't do it, so no one believes him. That is as simple as that. And the fact that that exists means that we don't need anything more complex. And people can't really tell lies in the same way. Hey, Tavel, or Tavel, I still haven't figured out how to say your name. One of these days I'll figure it out. You did tell me what it rhymes with once, with another word I also didn't know how to pronounce, so that wasn't very helpful. Does it rhyme with, I don't know. I'm not going to keep guessing that. So yeah, let's take a look at, it should flip here. Is it going to flip? No. Maybe? Yeah, we're flipping there. Good. So here we are. This is the Bitcoin Standard Conference. I encourage anyone that's near or possibly able to go to Mexico to go to it. It looks like a great conference. I'm really, really stoked to be asked to go to it, to be honest. The whole thing's been put on by a guy who calls himself Ugly Old Goat. This isn't the first year he's done it. And he's an old veteran. He's an old financial elite. And he has a good understanding of money. He has a traditional perspective on it all. And he's put on this very, very nuanced bunch of panels. Everything's being done as a panel. There's no presentations. So, hold on a second. There we go. Sorry about that. So yeah, here are some of the panels we've got. So will Bitcoin become the world reserve currency? That's after a welcome. We've got Mad Bitcoins coming. We've got Jimmy Song. We've got Mia. That's Giacomo Zucco's wife. We've got Tom Vase. We've got Guy Swan. I'm just getting into Guy Swan now. He's awesome. Who's this guy? Joachim Book. Don't know that guy. And Knut Svanholm. Don't know that guy either. But that's the first panel. What is completion? What's competition in currencies? 100% fractional reserve or no fixed reserve. I mean, these are some really interesting topics to debate, and I'm quite out of my depth with a lot of it, hence this stream. But nonetheless, it's just great to see. Like, it's the benefit of doing a smaller conference that you can have discussions like this, as opposed to the Bitcoin conference in Miami, which was, or Bitcoin 2021 rather. Great conference, don't get me wrong. I'm so stoked that I was able to go and talk at it, but we had just ridiculous stuff like Dogecoin idiot running up on stage, and not only that, but what's his name, Floyd Mayweather, going on about some fork of Ethereum, like we're gonna have loads of currency. That was just so ridiculous. The difference between Bitcoin and the Bitcoin Standard, and thank God for Bitcoin. That's a panel with Jimmy Song. Robert Breedlove's not going to be there. I mean, I don't know, he's been excommunicated. He was one of the authors for the book, Thank God for Bitcoin. I'm really excited to talk on that panel. I don't know exactly what I'm going to say yet, but I'm excited nonetheless. And I don't know I need to read the book, but I'm not really going to have time in the next 2 weeks. What is the future of banking? That's an interesting topic, but I'm not involved in that panel. The politics of the Bitcoin standard, super interesting. How to use Bitcoin as your treasury, building on the Bitcoin standard, managing and hedging risk on the Bitcoin standard, Bitcoin legal tender, should it be embraced or abolished, and finally this panel I think I'm hosting, which is Beyond Bitcoin, the future of self-sovereignty in the digital age, and that's going to be me talking about projects like Embassy OS, and largely I'm going to be talking about Embassy OS just because that is the best example of what that looks like at the moment. So, and there's also an award and a carnivory dinner and all this stuff. So anyway, let's get back to I think that should have flipped it. Apologies if my streaming setup's still a little bit unreliable. So hey Honk Hogan, thanks for tuning in. I see you on Twitter a lot. I like your posts. Bitboy, have you discovered what Elizabeth Warren has said recently? I am late. She said, what are we? We're super coder, like evil people or something. I can't remember what she said. Something obviously stupid, but like also kind of just something we've obviously adopted immediately because it's just the best accidental compliment ever. What is it? Shadowy super coders. There you go. I found it. I knew Ben Kaufman is a reliable memeologist in the Bitcoin space. What's he got to say? Yeah, shadowy supercoder. Did he retweet her? Actually, no. I saw Senator Cynthia Lumens. Where is it? Yeah, there she is. She did a fantastic little response, I think. She said, this was Senator Elizabeth Warren's tweet. Crypto puts, well, it wasn't a tweet, but this was a part taken from it. Crypto puts financial system in the hands of shadowy supercoders. I mean, it sounds like a compliment to me. Adam Back responds, nah, it puts it in the hands of users. And then Cynthia Lumens, a US senator, her response was, who commit open source code to a transparent, publicly viewable, decentralized ledger, facilitating peer-to-peer transactions without the need for a trusted, but sometimes not actually trustworthy, third party. Dude, Senator Cynthia Lumens has a nuanced understanding of Bitcoin. I'm fucking impressed. She's on the sailor warpath for understanding this thing properly and championing it respectfully. I am really impressed. So yeah. Honk Hogan says, Toma! We're all very excited to see Toma. He's probably gone to bed though. Is Breedlove forgiven? No. I mean, he hasn't owned it. The minute he goes, yeah, all right, I shouldn't have done that, then I'll be like, okay. I mean, he said he's going to die on the hill, so, I mean, I'm not going to go there and pick him up and carry him off the hill. If he wants to die on the hill, he can die on the hill. What he did was bullshit, so, you know, we're going to call him out on it, and if he's going to write a 50,000 word essay on how Bitcoin has a problem and we should all be open-minded when he's just giving air to some stupid scam that's like on par with BitConnect, I'm like, well, have fun doing that, bro. Like, I'm obviously, it's not hard to be a toxic maxi. Like, I know we can't all be Francis Pouliot, but you know, what he did was really stupid, man. Great book, short read. No, he is not forgiven. I agree, Honk Hogan. Breedlove is done. Yeah, Breedlove is absolutely done. He can come back. Anyone can come back. It's just they never do. Gavin Andreessen, Roger Ver, Jihan Wu. I don't know what happened. I think Bitmain might be coming back. Actually, they said they're abandoning mining, or they're abandoning their pool, but they're just going into manufacture of mining hardware, and they make. I can't deny it. They make the best Bitcoin miners in the space. They use less electricity per hash than anything else. So can't really deny that, the technological prowess. And to be honest, mining's different. Like Alejandro is a friend of mine. I love the guy. He was a big blocker. He was being annoying back in 2017, as far as I can tell. At least this is what I've been told by people I trust. I don't specifically remember it myself. I haven't verified it. But nonetheless, I love the guy. He's like, well, I don't know him particularly well, but every time I interact with him, it's super pleasant. He seems like a great guy, and he was a big part in getting all the miners together to liaise for Taproot. So whatever, I can forgive and forget, absolutely, but not if you're going to continue to fuck up. Then I'm not going to wait till you stop fucking up before I go, all right, welcome back. When Breedlove goes, yes, I understand that if I mention, even in a passive sense, interesting, I wonder what the free market thinks about Dogecoin. Like, you're influential, deal with it. People are going to buy it. People don't understand what they buy. Have some responsibility, own it, and say, I shouldn't have done that. Like, I'm not going to think out loud, and I'm not going to... I just think he's being dishonest, and like that's all it comes down to for me. Are you being honest or are you lying? If you're lying, then go away. Like, I even believe Roger Ver when Roger Ver says, when he vouched for Mt. Gox, who are not processing anyone's withdrawals of fiat, he went and made a video saying this is not Mt. Gox's fault. They are fine. They're completely solvent. It's the traditional banking system that is creating problems. And then Mt. Gox collapsed and lost 1 million bitcoins. I even will forgive Roger that because I genuinely think it was a mistake. But I just can't forgive actual continued lies. And when it comes to big blocks versus small blocks, Roger Ver is still refusing to acknowledge that trade-offs exist at all. And now we've got Elon Musk carrying the championing that flag now, which is really annoying to see. Bitboy, a confession booth at the Citadel to wash away sins. Dude, I mean, this was an idea that me and Toma had for the Love of Bitcoin podcast. We wanted to have, Bitcoin confessionals, and we did it a few times. We haven't done it for a while, but yeah, I mean, Bitcoin teaches you a new way, and occasionally you forget about it. Like, an obvious example is shitcoining. Another example is selling during a dump. That's, selling at all is not good unless you really need the money at the time, but getting shaken out, believing FUD, these are all sins. Not leaving coins on centralized exchanges, that's a sin. We don't do that. We buy our Bitcoin on Bull Bitcoin, and you can't buy it until you give them an address to withdraw it to. God, shout out to Francis Pulio. I absolutely love this guy. Like, he's just, I don't know. Go and read Francis Pulio's Twitter. I mean, he's just absolutely on fire lately. Like, just trying to, there's a lot of people out there that have just realized not only we don't want to go back to 2019, we want to go back to before 2001. We want to get all our civil liberties back. We don't just want to go back to, being molested at the airport and having security cameras everywhere and being surveilled by every big data platform. But, at least we didn't have to wear masks. And, come on, let's actually get everything back. I hope they pushed us too far. And yeah, Francis is a legend. My dream is that what I've been learning about Bitcoin lately, and this is incredible, I no longer want good news. Like that old flowchart that says, is this good for Bitcoin? Yes, this is good for Bitcoin. No, this is good for Bitcoin. It doesn't matter what happens, it's good for Bitcoin. That was the old meme and the old joke, but I've come to realize that that's not true. It's actually, if this is bad for Bitcoin, it's good in the long run, and if it's good for Bitcoin, it's bad in the long run. So when a classic example is Tesla. Tesla say, we're going to accept Bitcoin, price shoots up, then all we have is a centralized point of failure. We have the decision of one man or one company is now very important for Bitcoin's continued, at least price range. And then they turn around and say, oh, we're not going to accept it, bad for the environment. Then the price absolutely tanks. That's a pain in the ass. And that it comes as a result of someone helping us and then us becoming dependent on their help. Another example is China being cool about mining. China come along and say, oh, let's... China come along and say, we're an authoritarian regime, we're not into libertarian technologies like Bitcoin, but you know what, we decided to be cool about it. Go and mine all you want. 60-70% of the world's mining happens in China, and all that's not them helping us. All that did was create years of problems. People saying, what are you going to do when China kick you out? Eventually they do kick us out, we survive it, we get more decentralized, we are stronger now, the central point of failure has gone. Again, a bad thing happening was a good thing. The good thing, which was China just letting us mine, was a bad thing, and now that's stopped. So all that is to say, I was trying to make the point that I hope with all these COVID measures, all this attack on liberty, I hope that this helps humanity develop some sort of anti-fragility where we just go, that's it. Well, we can't talk online anymore because anything that's true gets deleted. We can't message each other without the FBI showing up at our house, or, we can't not take medical procedures that we don't want because we'll get shut out of society. We'll get sacked from our job. Our kids won't be allowed to go to school. Like, I'm hoping that they just go so far like that. Obviously, not all of that is happening yet, but I'm saying I'm hoping they go so far that humanity just develops workarounds for all of these things. I hope everyone starts self-hosting so that at least all the digital things we've become reliant on become anti-fragile. I hope to see that. Elon is done too. Yeah, Elon's just an idiot. I mean, he's just, I cannot get over that B-word interview where he's like, so if you're not going to make big blocks bigger because it hurts decentralization, why don't you make them smaller then? And he goes like this. And he looks so proud of himself. And I just sit there like, oh, dude. First off, who's you? Who's you in that statement? Because you're talking to a decentralized network. You're not talking to a company. And you still don't understand it because you're coming from a corporate background. You don't understand that you're interacting with a decentralized network. There's no one making decisions in it. And second off, as always with Bitcoin critics, there's a post from 2011 where it was debated and dismissed. Though actually making blocks smaller is something I would like, but and a bunch of other Bitcoiners I know would also like it, but we don't have enough consensus to do it. So we're not going to do it. We don't want to set the precedent of forcing unwanted changes that can be done via soft fork on Bitcoin, because that way leads to bad things. We want to keep the precedent going that if you want to soft fork Bitcoin, you don't even start it until most people apparently want it, like Taproot. Then you get into the activation mechanism and all that stuff. But before that, your main priority is, do people actually want this? I did a Twitter poll saying, do you want smaller blocks? And most people said no. And a lot of people commented no, that I really know personally and respect. So fair enough. I'm not about to go and work with Luke and Shinobi on a client that makes us have 300 kilobyte blocks, because the community just doesn't want it. So let's abandon it and let's fly under the radar and hope enough people run umbrella nodes and don't mind buying 2 terabyte solid state drives by the year 2027 or something like that. We're growing at 100 gigabytes a year, the blockchain. We're currently at 400 gigabytes. So in 6 years, we've got to get bigger than a terabyte, and it's got to be a solid state drive. So, I mean, what's a terabyte drive run you now? Probably about $150 solid state. I mean, so 2 terabytes. What are you jumping up to there? Probably like $250 or something. Let's say in 5 years you've got to do that. Maybe it's under $200 by then, in today's purchasing power, of course. So, I mean, I don't think by 2027, $200 will buy you, a tin of beans. But you know what I mean. I'm adjusting for inflation. It'll become hard. The pressure on people to run full nodes will become more intense, and that would be less so if we had smaller blocks. But I think Satoshi's 1 megabyte luckily just gets us through, and we're going to have to leave it at that, unless by 2025, 2026, everyone's going, this is stupid, we need to make blocks smaller, there's no point in being this big. But I don't know, there be dragons, and if it works, it works, and it's working just about well enough. Sorry about that. So yeah, this is a very interesting conference to prepare for. Legal tender is an interesting discussion to have. Please feel free to chime in the chat while I'm sort of thinking about this stuff, because I don't really understand. I've been in Bitcoin for 10 years, but I haven't gone outside the bubble much. And a lot of this conference is about Bitcoin as it relates to the real world, not Bitcoin as it contains it within itself. Yes, Premley, we can find a way to make transactions smaller. When we do proper schnorsigs, then signature aggregation becomes a thing, and that will definitely make transactions smaller. Anything that uses more than one signature will get smaller, for sure. But yeah, so there are other ways too we will eventually find a way to do that. But anyway, legal tender is an interesting discussion because people don't like it for a good reason. But it's damn useful. But again, my earlier point: if it's good for Bitcoin, it's bad for Bitcoin. The reason it would be, in a shallow perspective, good for Bitcoin. Yeah, it's mandated. The reason it would be good for Bitcoin if it was put into legal tender, most obvious reason is capital gains tax. With capital gains tax on Bitcoin gains, you're essentially paying the government for their own destruction of the fiat currency by which you're measuring the value of the Bitcoin. So if you buy Bitcoin, if you buy Bitcoin at $1,000 and because of hyperinflation, it's then worth $10 million a few years later, and you sell the Bitcoin, then you owe $9,999,000 in capital. Well, that's that much of a gain, and you have to pay tax on it. While that 999 grand might not be worth much in purchasing power, you're still, the fact that inflation is happening is somewhat being financed by you and your Bitcoin gains. With legal tender, there's no capital gains tax. That's huge. It's also really useful because it makes it legitimate. So if you want to qualify for a mortgage and you don't have anything but you have some Bitcoin, great, then you qualify for financial products. That's cool. So it's useful, but again, if it's good for Bitcoin, it's bad for Bitcoin. If they say we're going to make it legal tender and everyone's like, yay, this makes our life easier, and then they go, if the mining happens this way and if this happens, and all this ESG style bullshit again, it's capture, it's niceness. Like, look, it's straight libertarian anarcho-capitalism, Ayn Randianism right from the off. If someone starts giving you money all the time and you become dependent on it, if it's helpful to you at all, then all they need to do is start putting a condition on your behavior to justify keeping to maintain giving it to you, or to continue giving it to you. It's like, I'm going to give you $1,000 a week. Great, that really helps you. You really want it. Oh, but you have to do this, otherwise I'm going to stop giving it to you. That's control. That's all that is. It starts as a gift, and then it becomes them controlling you. That's why you never accept gifts especially from people that you don't want to do business with, that you consider dishonorable, and So legal tender is useful in ways that are temporarily and from a shallow perspective helpful for Bitcoin and Bitcoin hodlers. And as you know, I now consider that only to be annoying and not helpful in the long run. Not only that, it's immoral. It has an immoral element to it, which is the governments are mandating things that is not their business to mandate. So I'm pretty much on a moral stance against legal tender, but when it comes down to it, I still celebrated with everyone else. I mean, anyone that watched my video from post-Miami 2021 saw how emotional I was after Jack Mallers' announcement that El Salvador are going to make Bitcoin legal tender, and they've since done so. It was amazing, and it's amazing when you're so wacky to be doing this Bitcoin thing for all this time and you get massive acknowledgement of legitimacy. It's still amazing. So I'll take it as a victory. At the same time, more sober thought since then has led me to believe there's just nothing good about it. There really isn't. Like, I'm happy to see people mining Bitcoin using volcanic energy. I'm sure of that. But this is, at the end of the day, ultimately corrupts something about what is at the heart of Bitcoin, which is Bitcoin was this. It's like Bitcoin is a gun. It's a weapon to be used against authoritarians. It's not supposed to be embraced by governments. It's supposed to be what you use to defy them, because it's actually technologically capable of freeing you from authoritarians. So when governments come along and go, great, but then I'm just like, no, that doesn't work, and now everyone's going to use it in the wrong way. It's literally like there's a bunch of, it's like gun rights. I'm going to have, I want my guns because I don't trust the government. It's like if the government goes, awesome, yeah, we think guns are great, we're going to hand them out to everyone, and everyone has them, and they start using them as a paperweight or some other non-intended use for a gun, and you're like, this is completely corrupting the whole point of what these things are about. Because I don't know, let me catch up on the chat here. For as long as countries still exist, El Salvador will be the first country to adopt Bitcoin. That's historical, regardless of whether it's good or bad for Bitcoin. Agreed. It was a huge. It ushers in a new era. I completely agree, and it's an inevitable thing. I just don't want to celebrate it in any way where I end up going, oh, what have we done here? I mean, Trojan horse theory works in reverse, right? And I do think the most damage that governments can do to Bitcoin is what they're currently doing. Embracing it, legalizing it, legislating it, what am I trying to say? Regulating it, making people get lazy, making people leave Bitcoins on custodial services, and never using things like BISC. Like, use BISC to buy your Bitcoin or mine it. That's KYC free Bitcoin. And the narrative out there that I really appreciate, I can't remember his name. I'm going to go into my DMs here because I really want to see it. Burn the Bridge. Econo Alchemist, right here. I can't go into... Here we go. This guy. He's the one that's busy destroying the narrative that we all have that says, don't mine Bitcoin. You'd always make more Bitcoin if you just spent the money you would spend on a miner. Just buy Bitcoin with it in the first place, and you'll have more Bitcoin as a result. But it's a bit of a shitty narrative, and it's not entirely true. You're perfectly capable of mining a lot of Bitcoin, especially given the state of the network at the moment. So please give that guy a follow. He's called Econo Alchemist, and I followed his guide for home mining, and it's been really exciting actually. So I definitely suggest to anyone that wants to to mine at home to take it seriously. It's actually a really fun thing to do, and it's a good way of making Bitcoin. For as long as I read that already, sorry. Bitcoin is the government. Any government legalizing it must acquiesce to this premise. Yeah, I know, it's super dominant and super powerful, but like, Bitcoin is its users, and it's how its users use it. Bitcoin can be used in a careless and stupid fashion. Like, Bitcoin is all powerful, but it's not powerful to the point where if you lose your private keys, you can get your coins back. And it's not powerful to the point where if you insist on leaving your Bitcoins on Coinbase, that the government can't then come along and confiscate them. It requires an enormous amount of responsibility. And if people aren't, if you want to have an illegal drug habit, and you're going to need to take some responsibility and be careful with what you're doing. If you want to fly somewhere, if you want to operate outside the law, you need to have an incredible amount of responsibility and care and diligence in your behavior so that you don't get caught and go to prison. Whereas if everything is legal, then you can just relax and do things in a very sloppy manner. So frankly, Bitcoin's best practices are best encouraged by governments when they make it illegal. So my favorite thing is when Bitcoin is illegal. And I think if governments did it, it wouldn't even hurt. It would just make the price fly up straight away. And we've already seen that happen in Nigeria. And we've seen it happen with illegal drugs. Everyone knows drugs would be cheap if they were free. If they were legal. But because they're illegal, all this care has to go into all this training, all this understanding, and therefore all this cost to the consumer. And I always say this, cocaine would cost as much as sugar costs if it was legal. So there you go. I want it to be driven underground. I really do. I know people want these MicroStrategy investment and senators coming out saying it's great and Elon Musk accepting it again. And all of these things, in my opinion, are bad for Bitcoin because they make everything worse in the ecosystem. They encourage laziness, like giant mining pools and giant mega corporations. And like even the Amazon news, the latest one, Amazon are going to accept Bitcoin later this year. Turns out they're not. Price goes rip, then it goes back down again. Like, I don't know how responsible for the recent price action the fake Amazon news was. I do actually think a lot of that was overdue anyway, and there was a massive short squeeze. But the point is, when good news comes like this and it's top front page of Reddit on the top post, I'm just always like, this is just a bad thing because that approval can be taken away. I don't want the approval of anyone anymore. Like, Bitcoin is fuck you money. I never want to have a pleasant conversation with anyone that wants to control me, ever. I never want their acceptance or their validation. And I want the whole thing to exist as a dominant parallel economy. I don't want it to be merged into the current economy because it will just corrupt it. Bitcoin isn't here to fix what's broken. It's here to replace it. And that's really important to maintain, in my opinion. Bitcoin is a government in that sense, but people will still have other governments in their lives, like religion. Yeah, I mean, government is authoritarian structures are always in lieu of religion, aren't they? And that's why that's why socialist shitholes always stamp out religion, because they need you to fill the void of divinity with the state, with the omnipresence of the state. And they're not. They are deceptively weak. I was taught this by one of the wisest people I know recently, and she said, these things I'm afraid of, these authoritarian governments that seem so impossibly strong, and with the added, you've got the USSR or you've got the CCP, all these evil entities, but with the benefit of the most modern technology. Oh my God. But she pointed out that these things are inherently weak, and they must be, because they always do fall apart. And if the world would just stop buying everything from China, China would fall apart too. And that gave me cause for hope. So let's hope China bans it then. Yes, exactly, BitBoy. If China bans Bitcoin, first off, it fucks China up, which is what anyone with one ounce of moral fiber in their heart, or their whole being, we want China done. I want that country. I'm so sick of China and what they're doing. I'm tired of watching it. I'm tired of watching the world turn a blind eye to it. They are modern day Nazi Germany times 1,000. They are what the Nazis would be if the Nazis had everyone carrying around a smartphone. I mean, I'm so done with it. I wish people would treat it like South Africa and the apartheid. I wish people would just economically boycott the shithole and then make them go, oh, we better stop, with the million people, the Uyghurs in concentration camps. We better stop, because people won't buy anything from us anymore. And our population will rise up. So I would love to see that. Don't buy China or something. There's a website, a movement. There's loads of lists actually how to buy things that were manufactured outside of China. Even electronics. Samsung comes from South Korea, I think, or Taiwan. There's plenty of countries you can buy. There's plenty of ways you can not. Apple iPhones, they're the worst. They're made in China. But they'll champion Black Lives Matter, but they'll still use, slave labor to make all their products. And Apple have lobbied against legislation that would prevent them from using workers that have to suffer the conditions that China puts their workers through. That's how moral Apple are. Yeah, let's hope China bans it. I hope China bans Bitcoin. I hope the USA bans Bitcoin. I hope that they don't make it easier tax-wise in America. I hope they make it harder. I want to see Bitcoin absolutely just crushed by the authorities, or at least so they think they're crushing it. That's what I want, because then Bitcoin survives it, and if Bitcoin can survive attack from all of the world's governments, then it's invincible. If it only survives because politicians are being kind to it and lowering taxes for it and making favorable legislation. I mean, this comes from a spaces I was doing on Twitter a couple of weeks ago, where people were asking, like, oh, if you vote, who are you voting for? And would you vote for someone that's going to, say that they're going to be favorably legislating for Bitcoin? And I realized, actually, no, I wouldn't. I'm literally, if you could tell me, if there's a president out there that's like Bitcoin and there's Joe Biden, I'm voting for Joe Biden, because that's actually better for Bitcoin. Maybe I'm being ridiculous, but I actually think this is true. I really do. I don't want to vote for the guy, the MP, the presidential candidate that's saying Bitcoin. I don't want to vote for that guy, because then Bitcoin price will fly up. He'll get into office, and he won't do any of the things he was going to say, and then the price will just collapse again, and we'll exist in this no man's land. Like, that whole idea that, like, life is easier. The fight is always much harder. The fight or the confrontation are always much easier than the anticipation. When you're in trouble and you know it's coming, like that guilt, that uneasiness, when you get there, like, it's like going on stage. I'm going to go on stage in 5 minutes. Have you ever had stage fright? Like, when it actually comes down to crunch time and you're up there, it's easy. And that's what I think it is with Bitcoin. When Bitcoin is actively under attack, we just survive it. But when it's coming, Like this, I keep mentioning Francis Pouliot, but I'm just loving him today. He talks about when the times he worries most about Bitcoin is when it's not overtly under attack. Because when it's overtly under attack, you can defend against it and you can plan everything out in your head. You can know all the scenarios. When apparently everything's going well, you know it's still under attack, but you don't know where the attack is. So that's disquieting. That's unsettling. So we don't really know what's going on with that. If there's always an attack. And if the attack is Microsoft's embrace, extend, extinguish, that's a lot more worrying. So that's what we worry about with people like Jack Dorsey and all that stuff. So anyway, let's get back to it. Building on the Bitcoin standard. I mean, again, low time preference, high quality. We see the construction. I mean, I'm not a part of this panel actually, but I'm delighted to say that cheap junk doesn't exist. Consumerism disappears. People have to make quality stuff because no one's going to give them Bitcoin for shit. So, you know, there's just the change, the appreciation of quality. Look at 100-year-old furniture. Look at how it was built to last, and look at all the modern crap. Look at the things that are made out of MDF. Like this is literally the cheapening and the grossness of the world you live in, is because the money is crap. The money we use is so bad that you're getting money thrown at you all the time because it's worthless. I mean, the fiat standard, the Bitcoin standard. Saifedean has hit the nail on the head with these concepts, and it's so good that humanity has a shot now. It's just so good. So I covered legal tender here, I think, and that's going to be a difficult panel to go on for an hour and 15 minutes. But I don't think it should be abolished, legal tender. I just think governments should be abolished. I think there's going to be an irrelevance. I don't think that's a well-phrased question, so I might talk to Goat about that. But hold on, I got to check this DM here. No. So managing and hedging risk on the Bitcoin standard, that's going to be interesting. I don't really know what to say about that at the moment. If you have any input on that, that'd be interesting. Anyone in the chat here? We've got 6 viewers at the moment. Managing and hedging risk on the Bitcoin standard. I don't know. It's really a difficult topic to discuss, that one. Because everything becomes so much more risky when you're spending Bitcoin, doesn't it? So I hope it doesn't make people less adventurous. I mean, that is the ultimate Keynesian argument. So I wonder what the rebuttal to that is. The Keynesian argument being, make the money shit so people will, frivolously throw it away, and therefore you have an economy as a result. One, that's consumerism again. It's high time preference. It's ugly, but it does make for quite a functional planet, even if it's not really designed to last. I don't know. I think I want to live in an age of minimalism and the opposite of consumerism, and conservatism in a sense, and appreciation, and planning for the future. I think it lowers risk a lot because you can have you can do something on the side. You can wash cars and earn 300 sats every time you do it, and maybe you do that for 2 or 3 years when you're 15 years old and you live at home. But that savings will actually grow, and you can be like, right, I'm 21, I can buy a house because of that, all those car washings I did. That's not risk. That's having an actual future that's guaranteed for you. That minimizes risk, which is beautiful. As far as the management goes, I mean, what have you got against it? I mean, you have something. All of the risk that we have to manage is the risk that comes from, again, bubbles popping, and those bubbles only having been brought into existence in the first place because of the denaturing of the way we measure value in our culture. This is actually a very good point. You have money can't be used as a store of value, so everything else has to be used as a store of value, but everything else has additional functions, so you're perverting those functions. Real estate shouldn't be a store of value. It should be where you live. It can be a kind of store of value, but that's not supposed to be the point of it. And for so many people buying real estate and renting it out or whatever, because the money they would have otherwise would just be losing purchasing power, all that does is pervert the real estate market and mean no one can afford a house anymore. And there's a bunch of risk with that, because if and when you do buy a house, there might be a massive crash, like happened in 2008 or happened in 2020. You get massive corrections in the property. That shouldn't be happening. House prices shouldn't be a speculative asset, and everything's becoming speculative, and people are just going full retard with the things they buy in the stock market now, because money sucks. So I've made this point before. I don't want to repeat myself too much on this channel, but again, the management and the hedging of when it comes to hedging risk on the Bitcoin standard, you would always just use Bitcoin as your default. It just gets rid of so much mental energy as well. You can just go, if I'm not sure, I just keep the Bitcoin. If I'm not sure if I need something, then I'll sell it and turn it into Bitcoin. There's never that whole extra thing of, okay, but once I've got the dollars, what do I do with them? I have to invest in this and that and do my due diligence on all of them. And even if they're good companies, they still might be way overbought, because people are buying it who don't care about the company, and they're buying it because they have to get out of dollars. So you have to keep dealing with crashes all the time, because things don't reflect actual committed investors. They just reflect people trying to get out of money. So again, I just think so many of the problems that come from there's no hedging that needs to be done, and risk management. Bitcoin is just the eliminator of these risks and these uncertainties. It's so good to see. What's the next topic here? I'll come back to the chat in a minute, sorry. How to use Bitcoin as your treasury. I don't know anything about that, and I'm not on that panel. That's a Michael Saylor thing, I would say. And the politics of the Bitcoin standard, that's going to be really interesting, because sorry about my throat always goes a bit dry during these streams. The politics of the Bitcoin standard I find a lot of fun, because we are taking away the main source of power for the political class, which is the ability to print money and to set interest rates and to choose where newly printed money goes. Those three powers allow a continual siphoning away of the productivity of 99% of the population, and the fact that we keep getting squeezed and squeezed and squeezed. The fact that even though we have so much technology that we didn't have 50 years ago, now 2 people in the household have to work in order to be able to afford rent, as opposed to one guy can work and he can buy a house in his mid-20s and support a family with 8 kids and a wife who doesn't work. The fact that you can have 70 years since the 50s in America, you can have, America its economy was doing well for other reasons as well, of course, but the fact that you could have that scenario gets so much worse, despite the fact that we've got all this technological innovation, which should be liberating us, just tells you that money is being sucked away from you, and it's being done because of the nature of the money you're using, or I should say wealth is being sucked away from you, or purchasing power is being sucked away. So anyway, politicians losing the ability to do all that fuckeries is great, because they are not really going to be able to do much else. How are they going to pay for all their other stuff? They're going to struggle to be politicians, and they are going to turn into advisory people. I think they're going to do a lot less authority stuff, and they're going to do a lot more advice stuff. So very happy to see that. This is going to be very interesting to debate. We've got Bitcoin Motorist on that one. Juan Gate, who is Ugly Old Goat's son. Jimmy Glover. That's Jimmy from down in South Baja. That'll be good. I didn't realize he was on any of the panels. Gabriel, I don't know. Derek, I don't know. That's me, obviously. And Knut, I don't know him either. So what is the future of banking? I think banking is legitimate. Again, I'm not on this panel, but I'll give you my thoughts on this quickly. Banking is legitimate. Not everyone is going to be able to store their own coins, because it is maybe slightly technologically challenging, and maybe because it is smart money after all, maybe when multi-sig becomes ubiquitous, the function of banks is to hold a key for you, not have the ability to spend your coins, but have part of the ability to spend your coins. That's a very reasonable thing. We already see that with services like Unchained Capital and Casa Hodl. there's a whole bunch of platforms that do this stuff where they hold one of your keys and your money can't move unless you contact them. Great. That's maybe a potential use case for banking. Banking is legitimate. It's just been, it's been a joke since Glass-Steagall. So, I think when it comes to banking, it's a reasonable institution to exist, but not in the way it currently does. And then you have central banking as well. But what is Bitcoin banking exactly? Does that mean just third-party storage, third-party custody? It can happen, but it's one of these things where not everyone has to run a full node. Not everyone has to have self-custody over their Bitcoin. But the more people that do, the less bullshit there'll be for people that aren't doing that. So if everyone left their coins on Coinbase, we'd be screwed. But because enough people don't leave their coins on Coinbase or any other exchange, that means that Coinbase and Binance and all these exchanges have to be more honest, because there's another option and it's quite widely used and it's quite feasible. So that's always something to remember. Not everyone has to do a good thing for a bad alternative to have to get its shit together. That's the point. Like, I made this point earlier. If there was no way of driving around in a motor vehicle except getting a taxi, then taxis would suck. Taxis would be regulatorily captured, and you'd only be able to go to set predetermined locations. They'd be super expensive, and you'd probably have to do an airport scan to get into the taxi, like you have to do when you get on an airplane. But because real cars exist and you can drive around and do whatever you want, taxis can't pull any of that stuff because a good alternative exists that is used by enough people. So Bitcoin offers an alternative to banking, and as a result of offering that alternative, banking will, if it wants to continue to exist at all, will have to pull its socks up. So thank you, Bitcoin. Bitcoin fixes this. Thank God for Bitcoin. Now that's an emotional and tricky topic, and I might not address that right here because on a personal level, I'm going through a lot of transition in this area at the moment, and it's a little bit undigested for me to really talk about. But having entered into some new forbidden territory in my mind, and stuff that was previously inaccessible to me before, or unthinkable, or stuff I was too proud to really accept. Since having dispelled all that and decided to go for something, I've since learnt that it's a bit like going down the Bitcoin rabbit hole again, where you just realize, wow, sometimes things are a bit weird and unintuitive and complicated, and they just need to be. And that's how Bitcoin is. When you're explaining Bitcoin to people and you're going, no, but that's why you have to wait 10 minutes between blocks, and oh no, but that's why there's transaction fees, and oh, you just have to use Lightning for that. And when people are like, what's all this? Like, why is it so complicated? Like, that was a lot of what made me go like, reading scriptures and things like that before, like, hold on, doesn't this, so God sent down his son, who is also him, so he could be killed as a sacrifice back to himself, so that he wouldn't send, like, all this stuff just sounded utterly ridiculous. And I'm sitting here like going, actually, this isn't the first time I've gone down a journey where stuff doesn't immediately make sense, but I do have to sort of think about it a little bit more. But I don't really want to go about that right now. I may come back to some theological discussion if there's any interest in it, but I'd understand if there wasn't. The difference between Bitcoin and the Bitcoin standard, well, I'm not on that panel, and that to me seems, well, that's going to be interesting to watch, but I don't think I need to opine on that here. I'm not on any of these panels, so maybe not worth me going over right now. Is there anyone still here? Yeah, there's 9 guys. Thanks so much for tuning into this. Let me catch up on the chat quickly. The risk in Bitcoin is daily fiat volatility for paying bills. Yeah, is that the only risk, and is that much of a risk? I don't know. Like, I think I don't know exactly. It depends how predictable your life is. It depends how invested in it you are. And frankly, we are carrying out a speculative attack on fiat currency, right? So we don't sell Bitcoin to pay bills. We take out loans and we pay the bills off with the loans. And we kick the can down the road while the inevitable happens to the fiat currency. This is not financial advice, but this is not financial advice, period. Michael Saylor's advice that is ridiculously reckless but also completely logical is have as much debt as you can in fiat and have as much savings as you can in Bitcoin and wait, and then say thank me in a few years. That is a good model. I approve of it, and that's currently how I would like to structure my life. The extent we are still dependent on the fiat ecosystem is the extent to which Bitcoin poses a risk to us. I'm going to have to read that again, Prem. The extent we are still dependent on the fiat ecosystem is the extent to which Bitcoin poses a risk to us. Why does Bitcoin pose any risk to us? I don't know why it would. I get your point. We're not dependent on the current fiat system at all. The fiat system is doing more harm than good. And it's everything that's provided to us is healthcare, is people destroying your health, ministry of whatever. It's pure 1984 right now. The ministry of X is the ministry of minus X, or 1 over X. What do I mean? No, I mean minus X. Of course I do. The ministry of love is the ministry of hate. It's all just, it's complete bullshit. We are not dependent on anything. We have enough technology and abundance as a species to be all living like kings at the moment, and the only fact we can't is because of the fiat system. So if what you're saying is correct, according to which I think it is, then my feeling is that Bitcoin poses zero risk to us because it is usurping a system that is helping no one, and it's gently disruptive. Though it's powerful, it's not violent. The transition to Bitcoin will be very, very peaceful. It's the ultimate peaceful revolution. Paul Carmen, thanks for tuning in, man. The risk is on the part of the powers that be. TradFi is scared, so they've got to FUD the rest of us by saying there's risk. Yeah, they'll say there's risk, but have fun staying poor, or if you listen to them, I guess. But TradFi, what are you saying is the alternative to that? DeFi, okay, but not anything that runs on, Binance or the Ethereum network or any of that stuff. All that stuff is centralized as hell, and it pretends to be decentralized. And anything that lies about what it is in its name is definitely not made by people with integrity. A lot of people shouldn't have spending power, in my opinion. A large proportion of people just buy the crap that a small proportion produces. Why is this good? What do you mean they shouldn't have spending power? That sounds like a very authoritarian statement to me. I am not going to encourage anyone. I'm not going to say anyone shouldn't be able to do X, Y, Z. I'm into human liberty. If you're going to spend Bitcoin on stupid stuff, that is your right to do it. And it's not anyone else's right to tell you what you can and can't buy. That is socialism, and I'm not having it. No way, thank you. You deleted your message, Prem. Bitboy governments have the greatest spending power of them all. They do, but only in the current system. They don't in the Bitcoin standard, because they can't print more Bitcoin, and they can't force you to give them your Bitcoin. So that will not be true for much longer. One Galt, not Gate. Okay, thanks. I'll make sure to get that right. Uber and Lyft exist because taxis did capture the regulations and monopolize private car call service. Yeah, they did. I understand that. My point at the time was more about the fact that you can just drive a car and not have to use a chauffeur is what makes chauffeurs tolerable, because you have a reasonable alternative. But yeah, I agree with the regulatory capture there. In London, we have a special example of how stupid this stuff is. Looks like I'm breaking up a little bit. In London, we have a special example. We have bus lanes, and black cabs are allowed in bus lanes, but no one else is. And Uber were very upset because they're like, you're getting an unfair advantage. You get to, London, the traffic is horrifically shit. And if you can use a bus lane, you can get around a lot of the bad traffic. So black taxis have that regulatory capture advantage where they are permitted to use bus lanes. And if an Uber driver uses a bus lane, they get a big fine for it. So, I don't know if Uber ever won that court case. Blessings as you walk down the road of spiritual discovery. Thank you, Paul. It's been been a very nourishing thing to do. I'm carrying out a speculative attack on imperialism and government and cantillionairism. Yes, please do. Don't be selling Bitcoin to pay for bills. There's no need. And also, I forgot to finish my point, Prem, on that, is if you do this, you don't really need to worry about what the price is. If Bitcoin's at 40k and you take out a loan to pay some bills and then it runs all the way up to 50k, great. But if it drops, also great. It makes no difference because you took out a loan. If it drops too far and your collateral isn't enough to cover it, then you can be screwed because you'll get margin called or liquidated at a crappy price and you'll be selling at the worst price. So you can't, if you have 1,000 Bitcoins, the point to remember is don't have more than like 40 or something of them on some custodial platform. Because you might need to add another 100 in the case of Bitcoin crashing really far, and then you'll have 140 Bitcoins, more than 10% of your stash on a custodial platform. Be careful. So if live well below your means for a long time, that's my advice, in order to have enough Bitcoin that you don't need to sell it in bad circumstances. So a lot of religious people are attracted to Bitcoin spiritually. Maybe there's something godly about it. Advaita philosophy, sorry, I don't know that word. Advaita philosophy has some parallels with the Bitcoin blockchain. Yeah, I mean, Bitcoin serves as an object of worship for many who discover it. And it's hard not to go down that rabbit hole too, but I don't know. That's a topic for another time. I'm not going to get into that. Spending power is inflated is what I mean. Okay. No one should have the authority to pervert the spending power of others. Hey, how you doing, BTC Sessions? It's good to see you, Ben. And by pervert, I mean siphon wealth through debasement, reducing everyone else's purchasing power. Yeah, I completely agree. No one should have the authority to pervert the spending power of others. And I guess that's in reference to what BitBoy said earlier. But no, you're saying siphoning wealth through debasement, reducing everyone else's... I know, but I mean, it's inevitable it's inherent to the system. I'm sure you weren't here at the beginning of this stream. I've been doing my research for what's been happening with the transition that we made in 1971 under Richard Nixon, and I'm just stunned at how much of a scam this thing is. I really thought that fiat currency is a joke. Yeah, I always thought this. Okay, but the more I learn about it, the more I realize this is not just a joke. This is an absolute... it's beyond a joke. It's such an obvious and egregious scam that I can't believe that anyone would possibly accept this stuff as payment for their work or time. Like, what are we doing? This thing it's nothing. The whole system is an open, outright Ponzi scheme with no pretense of being anything else other than that. So currency debasement is a fact of what happens, and currency debasement is just robbery. It's just wealth transfer. It's guaranteed inflation. It's guaranteed moving of purchasing power from one group of the large group of mainly the middle class to the top of society, to the cantillionaires. It's stunning. I'm honestly stunned by it. And what's funny is all these people that peg their currencies to the US dollar, and then because the US dollar was pegged to the gold, and then one day, in 1971, the US dollar is no longer pegged to gold, and everyone else remained pegged to the US dollar. So the whole world switched on the scam at once, and humanity, the only advantage really was that people were like, oh, money's a useful technology as a medium of exchange. This is very useful, but everything else has corrupted people's understanding of what money actually is. So fiat is slavery. I agree. Fiat is a slavery system. Absolutely. It enslaves entire populations to the value judgments of central planners. It really does. There's no two ways about it. And I've not been... It's funny because I've had all these opinions for years, and as I delve deeper into it, which is ridiculous for me to be doing, I can feel like I can rest and know everything, and then I realize that's a stupid thing to do. Delve deeper into it, as I'm called to, in order to get my ducks in order for this conference. And I'm just honestly stunned, guys. I'm honestly stunned by how much of a farce the economy is and how the world operates. Not a good idea to should on others or yourself. Saludos. Yeah, I agree. There's no shoulds. Anytime you hear the government should, unless it's followed by fuck off, then I don't want to know what it is. I don't want to be forcing people to do stuff. And there's just generally a lack of understanding or nuance in anyone that would say a statement that begins with the government should. Like the implicit, what you're saying implicitly with that every time is I want people to violently force someone else to do something that I'm not going to do it. I want someone else to do it. And it's cowardly. That's what it is. It's cowardly or it's just ignorant. Hey Joyce, so that no one could buy or sell unless he had the mark, the name of the beast or the number of its name. I'm about to start when money dies. I've heard good things. I'm looking forward, man. I wish I had time to read books, bro. And I know you got kids too. I don't know how you find the time. I just don't ever have the time to read a sodding book. Like I can watch an 8-minute YouTube video if I get lucky, but reading a book. Well, I'm looking forward to it. I've still got to read The Creature from Jekyll Island, man. That I assume you've read it, and I know you just started reading Atlas Shrugged as well. I've had a lot of people give me the gist of it. I know a lot of Ayn Rand sycophants who swear by her philosophy, and she was no doubt a brilliant thinker. I did start Atlas Shrugged. I haven't had time to get deeper into it. How are you getting on with it, Ben? My otherwise reasonable friend wants Biden to waive tuition debt with a stimulus. It's tiresome, really. I mean, I don't know. Again, isn't that just a... What does that mean? Does that mean the universities... No, because the universities have already been paid. So it's the companies that lent them the money, right? Who is actually owed these... If you have... where is your money going when you're paying off student loans? It's not going to universities, is it? Where's it actually going? I took out to 0% student loans in anticipation of Biden waiving the debt. Yeah, well, that's a good idea. I mean, if you can borrow money at 0% interest and buy Bitcoin with it, come on, man, that's just free money. Anyway, I think I'm going to call it a day here, guys. My throat is absolutely just dying on me. I don't know why these streams lately, my throat just is just struggling so much. And I'm going to get back to my kid. So thanks so much for tuning in. If anyone has any, if you managed to get through this video and you're not watching it live and you have some thoughts, please go to Bitcoin Standard Conference. If you want to go to it, which I suggest going, it's going to be a real small, real intimate event. I think there's only 200 people. If you click on my face where it says Bitcoin Mechanic at any of these things, if you go to panelists, if you click on me, where am I? There I am. If you just click, you can go straight through and you get a 15% discount as well. And there's a lot of other stuff. There's some wild stuff going on. There's some carnivory dinners. There's like a whole natural tour, like going on goats, driving everyone around like mountainsides and stuff. There's a lot to be enjoying about the thing. Yeah, Ben, I'd really like to join Why Are We Bullish. You've been absolutely smashing it with that, dude. If you're still here, I watched the one with Alice. I can't remember her name, Alice, and you had Jeff Booth and a couple of other people on that were just... Oh, you had Marty Bent. That was just an absolutely incredible show. I was so, like, what an absolute... Yeah, Alice Killeen. Yeah, I wasn't aware of her until the Bitcoin 2021 in Miami. That point she made where if shitcoins succeed, it's because Bitcoin succeeded. But if Bitcoin succeeds, it's because shitcoins didn't successfully manage to muddy the water enough and create false narratives to the point where Bitcoin failed. So Bitcoin, it was just such a good point to make. And she was on a panel of annoying shitcoiners. She's absolutely amazing, but that was a great one. I'd love to come on Why Are We Bullish. I'd be in such good company there. That you always get really good people on, so hit me up about it, man. I think I want to talk to you as well about Start9 as well. We're bringing out affiliates. and that's a project that seems like it would be something you'd be interested in too. I don't know if you're hip to it, but it's a cool thing. If you're not aware of it, hit me up. I'll explain it. But I'm working for them on the side as well. Yeah, you've got to check them out. Well, we're bringing out affiliates. I know you're really good with the people you're affiliated with, so I definitely want to work with you on that. I know Matt would be stoked. He's the CEO of the company, but it's only a small company. We've only got I think 9 people working with us, so I was pretty stoked to be the 9th employee of Start 9. Anyway, yeah, Ben, hit me up, bro. I want to come on Wildly Bullish for sure. Thanks for coming into the stream today. And yeah, everyone else, thanks so much. Thanks, Prem, for being here. Thanks, BitBoy and Conor McGregor. Are you going to start telling me about Ethereum or something? Oh, no, that was the other guy, wasn't it? That was Floyd Mayweather. Anyway, peace, guys. Thanks so much for watching.